Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Good morning, Dana. Are you about ready for Christmas? We're about to be here. It's about to be here whether we're ready or not, right?
No, I said I was not ready. And then this weekend I've gotten it together. I've like wrapped so much. I've wrapped the skin off my finger.
God, I wrapped the ugliest present. So years ago when I ran
me.
Oh, I'm terrible. I don't have patience. Like my sister just reminded me that our presents used to have like these big bubbles at the end instead of being smooth and flat. And I ran across a lady years ago. She decorates my house and she makes beautiful packages. I'll have to send you some pictures of them. They're beautiful. But I thought, that's her gift. That's her genius, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today, discovering your genius. And I said, why would I try to do something she's so much better at?
Yeah.
So
Carolyn
wraps our packages and decorates our house.
Does she do the big bows and all that stuff?
Big, beautiful bows.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite part is buying the beautiful stuff and then having her put it all together. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love it. Pictures.
Yes, I want to see them. I actually love to wrap. It's just finding the time to do it. That's time consuming. So
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm excited. We're going to talk today about the importance of assessments and kind of what we've discovered and learned. You just ran across a new one. So why don't you tell everybody about that one?
Yes, perfect. So yes, I did. So we actually found one that is a new assessment from Patrick Lencioni, and many of our listeners will know Patrick. He wrote The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He also is the humble, hungry, smart, the 3 traits that you look for in every hire that you make. And we had the privilege. I was trying to think, where did we actually meet and hear him? I think it was San Francisco. Maybe. I don't know.
Yes, it was San Francisco with John Maxwell's exchange a few years ago.
Yeah, it was great. And so I discovered this from John Maxwell, just had him on his podcast. And Patrick was sharing about his new assessment, which is called the 6 Types of Working Genius. And we are going to link in our show notes a way for all of our listeners to go take it as well. And it's like, I think $25 to take the assessment. You can actually use the code Maxwell and get it for half off. However, I loved it. And so it was something that I just did with all of my leadership teams in our offices, and then you and I took it. And so I thought it'd be cool for us to kind of share and walk through it. But it was very spot on. And we're both assessment junkies. So I thought it would be another good one to take.
Yeah. And, I was kind of thinking through when you asked me to do that. And I realized that honestly, some of the best things that I've ever discovered about myself, I actually discovered from taking assessments.
Yeah.
So I really think, and if you can get someone to walk you through one, what we call validate it, it's even more powerful, I think, than reading it yourself. Because when somebody sits and validates and reads the statements and different things to you, you have a chance to reflect on it and think. And so I know for myself, I told you the only thing I've done more of than assessments is diets. And I'm glad I didn't have to list all the diets I've taken. I only had to list assessments because there wasn't quite as many. But I realized what I kind of learned from each one of them and how they helped me understand myself better. And then also certainly how they've helped me understand other people and how they've helped me understand what people I need to fill the gap with in my life so that I function at a high level. And then they get to function at a level that they love functioning at because it's behaviorally who they are. So lots of great stuff I've learned over the years from doing assessments.
Yep. What are some of the best ones that you've ever taken?
Honestly, a couple of my favorites. One is the Colby, which tells you how you like to take action. And one of the things that I learned about the Colby, I think it tells you, let's see, follow through. We should have gotten these in front of us before we talked about them, but follow through,
I have mine.
Implementer, quick start. And then there's one that's kind of like a mechanical type person. I never get very high number on that one, so I don't even pay attention to what it is. But they're really important because it tells you how you take action. And one of the things that I learned really well from that, number one, I'm a 9 quick start and there's only 10 numbers. So I'm a very In other words, I barely hear the idea before I start in motion to do it.
Yep.
And so that comes with pluses and minuses too, right? Usually you don't read the instructions, you just try to go, and that messes up a lot of stuff. You don't think things through, you don't plan and prioritize and do all that stuff. You go when you're a quick start. And the other thing that I learned about that is who to put around me. In other words, most of the people I need around me need to not be more than about 2 points off of my quick start. Otherwise, they'll drive me crazy on how slow they are to action. But yet, you want some people slow to action because they're going to have follow through. They're going to implement things and stuff like that. So Colby's been a good one. And I love Strength Finders. We all did that years ago. And maybe we should have Kim on here to talk about Strength Finders sometime. She's really studied that. But Strength Finders I love because I realized that I have a behind achiever. My second highest is responsibility. And what I love about that is with responsibility, it makes me realize that if I really commit to something, I'm going to feel super responsible for the whole thing. So no matter who else is doing it, like one thing right now, Nikki and I got nominated for a task force with Gary, and I'm just dying because Nikki isn't like acting like she's going to get in gear and do this. And we have to have the answers and stuff and report back to Gary in January. So my high responsibility is about to go nuts. I'll keep bugging her.
I would think that hers would be high in that too.
It might be, but today it's not high enough. So I don't know. I got to get with her and figure out what their problem is. I think she just wants to worry about Christmas first, and that's okay. But my responsibility will wake up in the middle of the night if I haven't called somebody back and I told them I would. I literally will wake up in the middle of the night, and if I don't go put a note on the door to remind myself to do it, I won't be able to go back to sleep. And I can't call them because it's the middle of the night. Jimmy, on the other hand, will tell you, I'll call you, or I finally have trained him, stop doing that. Have them call you. That way you're not disappointing and letting people down. So I just cringe when someone goes to Jimmy to communicate or get something done, because I'm like, oh Lord, now that I know about it, I'm gonna lay awake and be responsible.
You actually taught me that. You told me that's what you did with Jimmy. So I always have people tell them to call me.
Yes. Oh, save me so many places. That way, if they don't call, I get to keep working. And if they do call, great. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So, and then about the achiever, one thing that because you can tend to feel bad if you always want to achieve, or people can make you feel bad. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. Your family can say, good Lord, how much is enough? When are you ever going to be, through? Why do you keep working? It just drives me crazy when people ask that. They put their beliefs off on you.
Yeah. Well,
first of all, I love what I do, and I don't ever plan on not doing it. And I am a more fulfilled person when I try to achieve, because that's how I'm wired. Yeah. So learning these things, I think, can help you. Number one, not think you're an oddball or weird or whatever, and just realize that's how you're wired and that's who you are. And so the more I stay in line with those traits, the happier I'm going to be and the more, fulfilled I'm going to be. So I love that. So Strength Finders was probably one of my favorites. Of course, a long time ago, we did the Alessandra and DISC, and that thing tells you how you like to deal with people and how you like to deal with tasks. So that's really important to pay attention to, so that you don't, completely get your energy drained. Like I'm a low sociability, so I would prefer fewer people, not a big party or whatever. But I will do those if there's a purpose. But I do better with smaller groups or one-on-one, and I like to do a lot of tasks.
Yeah,
and so that gives leads to some issues too.
Yeah, I remember the DISC was probably one of the first ones I ever took, and then really after that was the AVA. I was trying to think back. I did find the Colby. It was Fact Finder, Follow Through, Quick Start, and Implementer.
Yes.
Yeah, because you were a 9 in Quick Start. I was an 8 in Quick Start.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. Would you remember what you were in an Implementer? I was a 3.
I'm a 4294.
4.
But I don't think the implementer means what we think it means.
9 4 4 4 8 3. Oh no, yeah, because the implementer.
And if you want somebody, they say to look for somebody who's kind of middle of the road on all of them, and that's real hard to find. So they must be like, like on the DISC, they've already even got it marked down to what percentage of the people.
Oh,
designed.
She's starting to talk to me.
You're going to teach us.
It says the implementer was more of envisioning things. The quick start was an innovator, which that's funny because that's kind of what this Wonder of Genius assessment says about you. Follow through was being able to maintain. That was their strength. And Fact Finder was explaining. Yeah, because I was a 4483.
Yeah. And I tell you, the other one that I love that you and I didn't talk about is the Enneagram.
Oh my gosh, how could we forget that?
Yeah, I love that one.
I got to write that down. Yeah, I loved the Enneagram. Yeah.
But, I think this is an appropriate time of the year because what a great thing to do over the holidays is maybe pick an assessment that you haven't taken before.
Yep.
Go take that assessment and really try to understand when you're building your goals and your dreams and your year for next year, really take into consideration who you are, because the more we can stay in line task wise and goal wise with who we are naturally, I just think the happier and the more fulfilled we are on our day-to-day, tasks that we do.
Yeah. One other thing I just thought about too, another one that we've both taken, I think, is the love language one. And sometimes these are really great to do with your family or your significant other,
good
your
idea.
spouse or your kids or whoever, because then you even get to see more of how they tick and how you can cohabitate better and live together and all of those things. Because even you're different than your family, but sometimes you're more similar, sometimes you're not.
Yeah, I don't think I have actually taken the love language. I think I just
really?
I think I just guessed. So maybe I'll do that one over the holidays. But yeah, that's a great way to do that. Yeah, we were laughing one time. I think it was Myra or somebody that was working for me, and her husband's love language was physical touch. And I'm like, it's kind of hard to do that all the way from the state of Kentucky. Well, we got to figure this one out.
Yeah, that's right. That's why they're good to know.
Yep, exactly why they're good to know.
So you can figure those out. Yep, that's exactly right. Well, do we want to share our working genius one?
Yeah, let's kind of tell everybody about it and kind of what you've discovered from it. And I haven't watched all the videos. There's a lot of great videos I noticed on it.
There are a lot of good videos.
Yeah, let's kind of tell them about this one, and maybe it's one that they want to add to their list this year.
Yep. So, okay. So the 6 types of working genius, and is what you take. You thought it was so quick. It only took me like 5 minutes to take it.
Yeah. And like most of them, you got to go with your first thought, and it's not easy because it's like, I don't know. It depends on the situation. That's what I kept wanting to say, but it depends on the situation.
Yes. So true. Yep. Yeah. You kind of have to just pick your first one. So the 6 types are the genius of wonder, which is the natural gift of pondering the possibility of greater potential and opportunity in a given situation. That was John Maxwell's on the podcast. He shared that was his greatest one.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, yeah, I thought, that was my lowest one. That was your middle one. So we'll go through those. Then the genius of invention is the natural gift of creating original and novel ideas and solution. The genius of discernment is the natural gift of intuitively and instinctively evaluating ideas and situations. The genius of galvanizing, which you and I both had, we'll go over, was the natural gift of rallying, inspiring, and organizing others to take action. The genius of enablement is the natural gift of providing encouragement and assistance. And then the genius of tenacity, which was our lowest, the natural gift of pushing projects or tasks to completion to achieve results. Basically, that is the implementation part.
And that's interesting because I would think tenacity means you just don't give up. And I know I have a high one of those because good Lord, Gary sent me to Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and I've been there since 2000 working to get something accomplished. Yep. So, and I definitely thought of quitting many times, but I would not quit. So I really saw tenacity as that instead of follow through, but it makes more sense with what you said.
Well, it was funny too, because when my leadership teams did this, the ones who had really high in tenacity were like MCA, the ones who really were there, they were the implementers, really, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
It was just, we'll go through it, but it was funny to watch how everybody's kind of came out and about. So your highest one was the genius of invention and the genius of galvanizing. And the invention one to me sounded totally spot on you. And so these are people that are naturally drawn to coming up with ideas, seemingly out of nowhere, to solve problems or address the needs that they or others identify. They're most frequently identified as geniuses in the most conventional way that the word is used, because what they do is so central to discovery and innovation. So people who have the wonder of genius, the genius of invention, tend to think and say, hey, I've got an idea. What about this? Here's something that might work for you, or please let me try to come up with a solution for that. And then what other people say about those type of people are, wow, they're a genius, literally. Where do they come up with these ideas? They always have a new idea or solution, even if we don't ask for one, and they're so creative, they'll think of something new.
It's so funny because when I think about that, I think I do, even if I don't really know the person very well, I'll immediately start trying to solve their problem in my head.
Yeah, because you get quick to solution mode always.
Always. I just want to go straight to the solution. Isn't that interesting? And then I notice, like with my daughter, sometimes she'll say, I don't really want you to solve this. I just want you to listen.
Adam
says, I want to solve.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. I felt like that one was very, very much like you. And so this was your working genius. That one was your top working genius. And then your second working genius, which was also my second, was the genius of galvanizing. And so these are people that bring energy and movement to an idea or a project or function. And actually, this is funny because when I read this one, I thought about you with profit share, because really you're very able to like rally around that. So people with the genius of galvanizing tend to think and say, come on, everybody, this is a huge opportunity. Let's figure out how to get this going. I really need you to join my team. And does everyone understand why we need to do this and why it's important? And what other people say about people with this genius is they've got so much energy and passion for what they're doing. They can't hide their excitement. Be careful because it's hard to resist their call to action, and you can always count on them to get you going, which I thought was very kind of spot on.
And if you were building a team, as I'm thinking through this, if you were building a team, it would be really kind of cool to say, what's missing on our team. If you need somebody that is a galvanizer.
Yes.
So I'm really starting to see these assessments as a way to, because I am looking for an operations person right now. I've thought about this a lot. It's hard for me to like write down like descriptors of things, but when I think about it like this, who do I love to be around, and what's missing that I would probably help me succeed at a higher level? Which of these would I need to make sure that they have? So this is very interesting to building the team.
Yep. And I have an example to share with that too. I'll pull that up and share that with you, because I had it when I walked through this with one of my groups, we had that. So your top was invention. My top was discernment, which was the knack for instinctive, intuitive judgment and evaluation of ideas and options, which I do feel like that was very spot on.
Give me an example of that. What would that actually mean? You're actually able to I just go for every idea and you evaluate it, or what?
Well, maybe. So it said people with the genius of discernment tend to think and say, now that's a great idea. Tell me more about your proposal. I think you're onto something. I feel like you need to think this through a little bit more, or I think I know how to make the idea work. And what others say about these people are, ask her, they always seem to have the best idea. They have an uncanny intuition. I trust their gut. They'll know what's good or bad about your idea, and they have great judgment and taste when it comes to almost anything. And I do feel like I have a good intuition when it's like with the big ideas, and I'm like, well, that part of it would really work, or that part of it may not work. I don't know.
I do recognize you doing that. And then I've also noticed sometimes when I throw out an idea, you want a little more about it.
Yeah, that's true, probably.
That's awesome. I love that. That's really good.
Yeah, so those were, and then galvanizing was my second one. So when you go to the now actually let's read tenacity, because that was funny. So people with a genius of tenacity, which really, I don't know, I could see this being a little bit you, but they say, come on everybody, we need to raise our standards around here. I'm concerned that we're not going to hit the deadline. I think we need to stay late or work harder. If we miss our goal.
Oh, definitely. That's me. Dana, do you not know that?
If we miss our goal, I'm going to be really disappointed, which I'm that one too. But what others think about those people are, I don't think they've ever missed a number. They don't want to hear any excuses. Don't get in their way. They're going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And failure isn't a word in their vocabulary. So I was a little bit surprised that wasn't higher on either one of ours, really, to be honest. But I think it was because the others were so strong.
Yeah.
That it just wasn't the top. You know what I mean? And he talked about that on the podcast.
So what number was tenacity for you? What?
Tenacity for me out of the 6, let's see, which one am I on? Oh, I'm looking at yours. Tenacity for you was number 5 out of 6. Tenacity for me was 5 out of 6 too. Same thing.
I'm really surprised. I really am surprised that would not be higher for me.
Yeah, I think what it says in here too is we both would love to have the idea and come up with all the things and think about it and pull out what would work the best. Like probably naturally you would have the big idea. I would pull out of it with the pieces that I think would work the best, and then where we might struggle, but then somebody else may have to actually take it to completion. Like I'm trying to think
for
what
sure.
people would be on that. Really, the podcast could be a good example because we're not going to be the one that's going to make it appear on iTunes every Tuesday.
No, that's so true.
But
Matter of fact, until we got a who, it didn't even appear.
Right? Yeah,
and I didn't even know if we were giving it to the right who. I'm just like, we need a who, and we're giving it to this person.
Yep.
And sure enough, within 2 weeks, we were up and running with the podcast, but it was never going to happen with you and I, which makes a good point.
Yeah.
Dan Sullivan says that when he does his podcast, every single one has a multiplier and a simplifier, and you and I both are multipliers.
Yep.
And he said,
gosh,
so
about that.
Yeah. So he said he has one podcast where both of them are simplifiers because Dan is a simplifier. And he said they struggle.
Yeah.
So very important point.
Yep.
So yeah, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it with the other person that's the same as you, but you better have a simplifier. Like you and I both are multipliers.
Yep.
Would you agree you're probably a multiplier?
Oh, I'm a multiplier for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we need we got Tyler is a simplifier and Kate is a simplifier probably.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. So the one thing that you said earlier, this is what I wanted to read. So when I did this with my leadership team in both of my offices, not one of the person on the leadership team had the genius of wonder. And so when we were going through it, I was like, man, isn't that interesting? And so what I love about this assessment is in the back, it has the impact on teams. And so it says, if you're missing a team member with blank, here's what your team might look like. And so it said in the back, if you're missing a player who has the genius of wonder, it will often fail to identify serious problems or take advantage of major opportunities. Teams without wonder don't take the time to collectively ponder and discuss what's going on in the environment. They prefer to get things done. Unfortunately, they often fail to recognize that what they are getting done may not be addressing the most important needs within the organization. The genius of wonder allows a team to spend adequate time with uncertainty and ambiguity, allowing it to dream, speculate, brainstorm, and contemplate what matters the most. Without wonder, that team may focus too much on being efficient, but without being effective. And that made so much sense to me because like when I looked at the Richmond office, we were like, man, all we do is like get stuff done and we want to win and we're on to the next. And we really don't take enough time to sit down and say, okay, let's brainstorm about this or let's daydream for a little bit because we're all so like on to the next, on to the next.
So if I heard you correctly, what's missing on that is you might miss the bigger opportunity or the bigger vision.
That's right.
Because you're just doing whatever task. It's kind of like the difference when Gary talks about the MREA book, that if you just set whatever your next goal is, instead of having a huge, big goal that leaves space for you to reach it, kind of like that, I think.
So, and if you think about it, think about this one, Linda. So that was John Maxwell's top one. Mm-hmm. And think about how much time he always says that he spends like thinking and preparing and reflecting and all of those things.
And we do none of those.
Yeah. And we do none of those. And so I got to thinking, I was like, man, that totally makes sense though, because that's why we would say like, or I would say, let's go have the goal of, whatever. And John's goal is like, he wants to change a country in his life.
Yes. Change the world. Yeah.
Yes. It's like so much of like he takes the time. It's not that we wouldn't think that big, but he actually takes the time to wonder and to think.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder if that's a muscle you can exercise or you just need to put people around you with it.
I don't know. That's a great question. Cause I would I don't know. If I think about it, I would have a hard time thinking that I could spend a whole 3 days retreat just thinking.
But they also say that, and this is one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about, like our new kids that are coming up with just, constantly having information bombarded and put in their heads. Creativity, they say, actually happens in boredom. And so if you think about it, we got to slow down and be quiet long enough. Where's our best ideas come from? I had another idea pop up in the middle of my night, in the middle of my sleep one night again. Remember, I just had the one about hiring our regional tech person.
Gosh.
After pretty much through the process, came to me at 3 a.m. Well, this one was about our profit share course that we're about to launch. There was a detail that we weren't thinking through yet. And so it just popped to me in the middle of the night. And so I think because we don't allow that space, that maybe if we allowed the space more, and they also say, like, some people go do 3-day sabbaticals, and what they're looking for is that quiet of the mind. They don't take their electronics. They don't take anything. So I think we may not build enough of that into our life, Dana. We probably have too much noise and too much going on at all times.
Yep, that was my biggest aha, because if you keep reading through this, it's that the people with it, and one is not better than the other. The genius of wonder isn't better than invention or discernment or any of those things. But I do think that you had a great point. When you have a team, you really need to figure out who you're missing, because when you read through this, the people with the genius of wonder, they're really good at they're good at working on the business, not just in the business all the time, like we've kind of said before. And they like crave that time of no electronics and being able to slow down, because they have to have it, because that's how they come up with their ideas, and that's how they come up with things. Where you may wake up in the middle of the night, or I may be like at the grocery store and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just thought of this, and then I'm trying to jot it down really fast. Yeah. But those two people need the quiet.
Wow, I'm going to get everybody on my team and everywhere to take this.
I love it. I'm telling you, like, we went, and so then in Columbus, we were missing, I can't remember, we were missing wonder. Oh, we were missing invention. And we did, and it was funny because because it says if you're missing somebody who has the genius of invention, then you can revisit the same problems over and over again, and you can be frustrated with little progress being made. Teams without invention may keep relying on the same product or service or idea, hoping that it'll somehow work this time around, but they usually get burnt out because, and it actually said they can be burnt out and helpless as competitors are overtaking them in spite of all the hours and energy that they are spending, because they aren't inventing, they aren't coming up with something new.
That's interesting.
So it's really kind of cool. I just loved this assessment, because I think especially when you're operating with a team or you've got a lot of people around you and you can see where your gap is. So it was, I said to Richmond, hey, the next person we hire needs to be somebody who's got the wonder genius, so that we can kind of have all pieces of the puzzle filled.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to kind of sit down, and next time you're looking for somebody on your team, rather than thinking about all the things we normally think about, but to sit down and maybe look at some of your own assessment.
Yep.
And then read some of this stuff about, what happens if you're missing certain people from your team, and then kind of be pretty clear about what you're looking for. Because I think we give these things to people. I know I'm guilty of this. I give these people these assessments, and then I'm not really honestly using it to the point of I know what I'm looking for in it. I just do it to understand them better. But what if I did it to not only understand them better and help them understand themselves better, but to also fill in gaps?
Yep. Yeah.
See, I'm big this year. My big thing is to put my unique ability team around where everybody is doing 80 to 90% of the time what is their absolute genius and unique ability. And it may not happen this year, but I am moving so much closer to it that I am no longer going to think how does anything get done, but who can do this? Who's got the genius and the muscle that this would be easy and natural for?
Yeah. Well, and the good thing about that too is when you're doing those things, it doesn't feel like a job, right? I mean, you know what I mean? That's when you can do it forever, and you can do it all the time, and you don't feel like, oh, I have to wake up on Monday and do something that I don't want to do, or go to something that I don't want to do, because you're in what you love to do.
And one thing that makes so much sense is one of the things, my favorite things to do is to be on phone calls with mega agents, because the minute I hear their story, I can see what solutions they need.
Because you're inventing with them.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense why I could do that all day long and I don't worry about what time it is or anything.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. So that would be another good thing to do, is sit down and say, how much of my day do I actually get to spend in my genius?
Yep.
And how do I get, if it's 50%, how do I get that to 70 as soon as possible?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're in our genius, I got to imagine life's just so much cooler, than when we're constantly trying to do things that aren't. And so much, looking back over my real estate career, so much of what wore me out and exhausted me and made me sick of stuff probably was because I was trying to do things that weren't in my genius.
I think a lot of people feel like that.
Mm-hmm. It may be, the question we get asked a lot is, how do y'all stay so motivated? Yeah. Well, I think the more you and I get our worlds, kind of shaped up in a place where we're doing these things,
yep.
You don't have to worry about the motivation. The motivation is always there.
Yeah.
So I think you and I get that question probably the most on the podcast than anything, is how do you motivate yourself when you don't feel like you want to be motivated? I would say go start looking at what your genius is and how much of your day is scheduled around that.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's doing those activities.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I need to be motivated to do those things.
Right.
That's very, very good point. Now, if it's something that I am not good at or I don't like to do, then yeah, you do have to motivate yourself to go do that stuff. So yeah, I love this. I just think this is so great. So we're going to link how they can take it, and any of you listeners that do take it, it'd be fun. Email us and tell us what yours are, or leave us a comment.
Hey, if you got wonder, we're looking.
Yeah, that's right.
Let us know if you have wonder in your thing. And then also, Dana, I think it'd be important for them to maybe listen to that podcast that you said where John Maxwell explains his. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was a really, really great one. That's on John Maxwell's Leadership Podcast. We can actually link that as well. But I can, we'll link it because I don't have it right in front of me. But it was a really, really good one. Patrick does a really great job, too, of explaining it better than obviously what I'm doing. But he kind of walks through and explains it. I might be able to find. Yep. Okay. Found it. It was the November 18th podcast episode on John Maxwell's Leadership Podcast, the 6 types of working genius with Patrick Lencioni.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Well, Dana, we're about out of time. Is there any final thoughts or input you'd want to give them about either the importance of doing an assessment or
I don't know. I just think that I just think that they're great to learn about yourself. But for me, I really love them when you're working with other people on your team. So I would say, like, when you find one that you love, don't just take it and then put it on a shelf or not do anything with it. Have the people that you work with and those around you take it too, because then you just learn how to work better together. And I think that there's a lot of power in that.
That's a great point. And I would add, if you've got people on your team and you've done assessments, pull those assessments back out after you've observed them working for a while. Yeah. Because sometimes they don't make a lot of sense to me on the front end, or I'm not really sure about them until I've observed someone. Then I can pull them out and start to see, oh, I see how this comes out. Oh, I see how this plays out in their life or in their day-to-day work. So pull out those assessments of anybody you have on your team ever so often after you've hired them to learn the assessments more and how that actually plays out in a person's life.
Yeah. And I just actually had to have a conversation. I'm trying not to say had anymore. I got to have a conversation with somebody, and before I had it, I pulled back out their KPI, all of their stuff, because it had been a couple of years and I was just like struggling with being able to have a little bit of good communication with them. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to look at his KPA and see exactly what it said, so that it prepared me better for the conversation that I had. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remembered things that I had kind of forgotten about how they like to communicate, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. All right. Well, remember, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please do so. Subscribe at the bottom. And your greatest compliment you can give Dana and I is to pass our podcast along to anyone in the real estate business or business world that you think might enjoy the kind of conversations that we're having. And if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or have a question or just a challenge that you'd like, or an opportunity that you're faced with that you think Dana and I can help you with, be sure and submit it to info@everything life and real estate. And we just want to say thank you for joining us. Can't wait to hear about your assessments and what assessments teach you about yourself at the end of this wonderful year that we're closing out. And Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Yes, and Merry Christmas, because this
Merry
will
Christmas
drop on
and a Happy New
Tuesday.
Year, probably.
Yeah, so Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful holiday and get to spend some great time with your families.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, see you next time.
See you next time, Dana.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.